Have you ever had a dream so big, so audacious, that people called you crazy? A dream that seemed to live on a different planet altogether? Today, we're talking about a man who didn't just dream of other planets. He's actively building the rockets to get us there. This is the story of Elon Musk, a name synonymous with innovation, controversy, and a relentless drive to bet everything on the future. But this isn't just about rockets and electric cars. This is about the mindset of a person who looks at the impossible and asks, when do we start? It's a story of resilience, of facing bankruptcy, ridicule, and spectacular failures, only to get back up and try again with even greater ambition. Our story begins not in Silicon Valley, but in Pretoria, South Africa. As a child, Elon was often lost in his own world, buried in books. He was a quiet, awkward kid who was bullied relentlessly. But while others saw a daydreamer, a young mind was voraciously consuming knowledge, from encyclopedias to science fiction. At just 12 years old, he taught himself to code and created his first video game, Blaster, which he sold to a magazine. This wasn't just a kid playing with a computer. It was the first glimpse of an entrepreneur who could turn ideas into reality and into profit. He knew his ambitions were too big for his home country. With a deep-seated belief in the American dream, he moved to Canada and then to the United States, eventually landing at the prestigious Stanford University for a PhD in physics. But the pull of the burgeoning internet era was too strong. After just 2 days, he dropped out. It was a massive gamble. He and his brother Kimball, with barely any money to their names, started their first company, Zip2, a sort of online city guide for newspapers. They lived in their tiny office, showered at the local YMCA, and lived on cheap food. They poured every ounce of their energy into the business. It was a brutal, exhausting grind. Many would have quit. But Elon's vision was clear. In 1999, Compaq bought Zip2 for over $300 million. At 28, Elon was a multimillionaire. For most, this would be the final chapter, the happy ending. For Elon Musk, it was just the warm-up. What do you do after becoming a millionaire before 30? You risk it all, of course. Elon poured his newfound fortune into his next venture, XCOM, an online financial services company. His goal was to revolutionize banking. In a move that was both brilliant and risky, XCOM merged with a competitor, Confinity, which had a popular product called PayPal. The merger was anything but smooth. There were intense disagreements about technology and branding. While Elon was on his honeymoon, the board ousted him as CEO. Imagine that. You build a company, you pour your heart into it, and you get kicked out. It was a painful lesson in corporate politics. But when eBay later bought PayPal for $1.5 billion, Elon, as the largest shareholder, walked away with over $150 million. Again, a point where anyone would retire to a private island. But Elon's dreams weren't about money. They were about changing the course of humanity. He had two primary concerns for the future of humanity: our dependence on fossil fuels and the risk of being a single-planet species. So, he took his entire PayPal fortune and split it between two seemingly impossible ventures. First, SpaceX, with the absurdly ambitious goal of making humanity a multi-planetary species, starting with Mars. And second, Tesla, to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy through electric cars. He was met with immediate and widespread skepticism. The world's leading rocket scientists told him he was insane. The automotive industry, a fortress of century-old giants, laughed at the idea of a viable mass-market electric car. He had no formal training in rocketry or car manufacturing. He was an outsider, a software guy playing in the world of heavy metal. The early days were a catastrophe. The first 3 SpaceX rocket launches were spectacular, fiery failures. Each explosion wasn't just a technical setback. It was millions of dollars vaporizing in a cloud of smoke. The media mocked him. His team was demoralized. He was on the verge of complete financial ruin. Simultaneously, Tesla was hemorrhaging money. They were struggling with production hell, supply chain nightmares, and technical glitches. The 2008 financial crisis hit, and suddenly, no one had money to invest in high-risk, cash-burning startups. Both Tesla and SpaceX were on the brink of bankruptcy at the same time. Elon later described this period as the worst of his life. He was putting his last personal dollars into the companies, borrowing money from friends just to make payroll. He was going through a divorce. The pressure was immense, the stress unimaginable. He was sleeping on the factory floor, working 100-hour weeks, trying to hold it all together. This was the ultimate test. It was the moment he had to choose, cut his losses and save himself, or bet everything, and I mean everything, on his vision. He chose to bet on the future. In the final hours, a miracle happened. At the end of 2008, with funds for only one more launch, the Falcon 1 rocket finally, successfully, reached orbit. It was a make-or-break moment. That success secured a $1.6 billion contract from NASA to resupply the International Space Station. SpaceX was saved. Just days later, Tesla secured a last-minute funding round, saving it from bankruptcy as well. It was a 1-2 punch that pulled both companies back from the abyss. It wasn't luck. It was the result of pure, unyielding perseverance. It was the reward for staring into the face of total failure and refusing to blink. From that low point, the trajectory has been astronomical. SpaceX didn't just reach orbit, it revolutionized the space industry by achieving the impossible feat of landing and reusing its orbital-class rockets, drastically cutting the cost of space access. They are now launching Starship, a vehicle designed to one day take humans to Mars. Tesla, the company everyone laughed at, overcame production hell and became the world's most valuable automaker. It forced the entire automotive industry to pivot to electric vehicles, fundamentally changing the future of transportation. The lesson here is not that you should start a rocket company. The lesson is about the power of what Elon calls first principles thinking. Instead of reasoning by analogy, which is what most people do, you boil things down to their fundamental truths and reason up from there. Why are rockets expensive? Because they're thrown away. What if you could reuse them? Why are batteries expensive? What are the raw materials? And how can we assemble them more efficiently? This approach, combined with an obsessive work ethic and an incredibly high tolerance for risk and public failure, is his formula. It's about being driven not by the desire to be right, but by the desire to solve the problem. Elon Musk's story is a powerful reminder that the path to breakthrough innovation is paved with failures. It teaches us that your vision has to be more compelling than the fear of failing. That when you are truly passionate about the outcome, the obstacles become part of the process, not the end of the road. So, what is your audacious dream? What is the problem you want to solve? It may not be colonizing Mars, but whatever it is, remember the story of the kid who was bullied for daydreaming. Remember the entrepreneur who was kicked out of his own company. Remember the engineer whose rockets blew up again and again. He kept going, and in doing so, he's showing us what is possible when you refuse to let your vision for the future be dictated by the limitations of the present. Thank you so much for watching. If this story inspired you, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content that motivates and empowers. We'll see you in the next one.